But
Ready.
you even have a mom cup. What does it say?
If you were a president, your name would be Abraham Lincoln. I mean, why wouldn't it say that?
Where did you get that?
A friend of mine gave it to me. I don't know. It's just random. Sorry.
Oh, but it's so perfect.
It really is.
You're listening to the Motherhood Experience, a podcast where you are part of the conversation with moms, for moms, and by moms. Let's jump into this episode with me, your host, Val Kleppen. Welcome to this third episode of the Motherhood Experience podcast. You are in for such a treat today. Today's interview is with Michelle Warren of Michelle Warren Photography. We go back now over 10 years. How we met is a horribly sad, heartbreaking story, but the friendship that has endured since is one of the greatest blessings in my life. You are in for some laughter, maybe even a tear or two. Michelle is one of the most hilarious and caring and spontaneous and empathetic individuals I know. I can't wait for you to meet her. Let's get right into the interview right now.
Okay.
So I have the privilege of introducing you to the rest of the world, even though you're already kind of a big deal.
No. But thank you.
And tell them then the ages and stages of your kids right now, what stage of motherhood you're in.
Okay, so I have a 16-year-old daughter, Olivia. I have a 14-year-old son, Evan, and 11-year-old son, Jacob. So I would say I'm in like what stage would that be? The middle stage, 25% stage? I don't know, somewhere in there.
It's got to be more than 25%. What does that mean?
Well, like, if they live to be 80. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Something like that.
So I was thinking about how, like when you meet a significant other, people are always interested in the story about how you met them.
Right.
But no one ever asks that about friends. Like it's just accepted that you're friends with someone.
Right.
And I was thinking, like in our case, that works to an advantage, I think, because if we have to explain every time how we ended up friends, do you feel like that would be awkward?
That would be very depressing too.
Yeah, it would.
It would be a very sad story
Yeah,
each time.
every time.
Yes, it's a good thing that we don't have to say that.
Isn't it? I think I was thinking like it's so funny. I mean, as a guest on the podcast, people probably want to know, like, oh, well, how do you know Michelle? And it's, oh, well, she took pictures at my daughter's funeral, and then we became friends and launched a nonprofit. That's the short version.
That's the short version.
But I would like to ask you if you remember this. It was shortly after. It couldn't have been too. It wasn't too long after Harlynn's funeral, but it was before you called me and talked about Harlynn's heart, I think, and you had stopped by the house to drop something off or something. You didn't even get out of the van, but Haley and I came out and you had your kids in the van and you had the window rolled down and you were talking to me. And then Haley, who was like 3,
Yep.
pipes up and says, "Can I live with you?"
Oh, I forgot about that.
And you were like, "Oh." And on one hand, I
said, "Hop in."
Yeah, you probably. And on one hand, I was like mortified as a mother, like, oh my goodness,
Right.
this child is asking this essential stranger is like this, is this a cry for help from my
Right.
child or what is this? But also on the other hand, I totally get it because everyone just feels so comfortable with you right off the bat.
I should have taken her. I should have just taken her. Dang it.
So today is a momentous day for you. 10 years since you walked away from your corporate job in mortgage lending, right?
Yes.
To become full-time photographer. You had been part-time up to this point 10 years ago.
Yep.
Can you talk about when you started getting into photography, there's a picture in my mind of when you started, and I can't remember if you photoshopped a flower in it or not, but it was of your oldest, Olivia's foot, right? Her
Yes,
baby foot. Tell me about how you got started in photography.
I might have that photo. It is so bad. Hold
One of
on.
my favorites.
Oh, it's not, but it's equally as bad as one of these that I have hidden. I so Olivia was 3 months old, and I decided to take her to Sears for her photos. And I spent $300 at Sears to put her in a basket of fake flowers. And I thought it was the most beautiful thing in the world. And I spent $300 and I left there thinking, like every mother does, I'm going to buy a camera and just do it myself. Buy a nice camera, do it myself. I bought a nice camera and I did horrible things with it. Horrible. So many fake flowers, fake grass, fake butterflies,
Lots of angles.
so many angles.
Lots of
I
angles.
I had a birdhouse in my yard at the time. A birdhouse or a windmill, a birdhouse windmill. I don't know what it was, but I thought I needed it in every photo. That I even photoshopped it into photos when it wasn't in the photo directly. I don't know what I was doing. And everyone kept saying to me, those are so good. Do my children. Take photos of my children. So I did. And thank God I never charged, or I would be probably in jail for like fraud.
A
It was
fraud.
so bad. But then I learned, I did some surfing of the internet, learned learned new techniques and got a little bit better.
I would say more than a little bit. We haven't had family pictures taken since you took ours in 2015.
That's a shame.
I know.
It's a crying shame.
I know. And then we moved away. Olivia was like the subject of your pictures when you started your photography hobby. That's now your full time business. But how today are your kids involved?
They honestly run away from me when I get near my camera. Like there was this specific night I remember sitting on the couch, and my couch faces whatever way the sun sets. So the sun sets into my
West.
window, west, whatever. Yes, the west area. And I was staring out the window and it was like glowing sunset. And I wasn't shooting anyone. My eyes got big and all three of my kids darted. They're like, no, boom. And they were gone. I'm like, fine, you guys suck. I'll just sit here and watch The Bachelorette then. Yeah. So I mean, they are forced to scout locations with me, which they don't love. They don't like when I take their photos anymore. And honestly, I don't like taking their photos anymore. So just not that nice anymore when I'm doing it. They've never actually been. It's kind of just been torture for them. So
When you first went full time into photography, was their life uprooted or upended at all? Switching from corporate work and mortgage world to now you're just trying to book photography clients?
Um, not too much, I don't think, because I kind of was trying to slowly get out of mortgage at that point. So I took a couple months to like bring down my book of business and kind of slow things down. So then their life, I would say, probably got better because there was less daycare. They were still in daycare some of the time, like drop-in daycares, but I was home more. I was home after school, which in mortgage, I definitely would have never been home after school. And growing up, my mom was a stay-at-home mom on a farm, and I really wanted that. So I mean, they probably would have loved if I was there less, but I liked being there more. So it was good for me. And that's all that matters, right?
Right. Well, and that will rub off on them. I'm sure they appreciate it, maybe just not if you ask them today. But
Right.
later they'll look back on it and say, that was so cool that my mom could do that.
Yes. Yes. And I think even if they did now, like, I think when I do have to work a lot, like in the fall, that almost like annoys them. Like, why do you have to go to work? Why do you have to go now?
Yeah.
So they've been a little bit spoiled with that because I can edit at home. I can do most of my stuff at home. So
Yeah.
I'm around a lot.
So you also became involved with bereavement photography,
Yep.
which I would like to touch on that a little bit. Just kind of how soon after you started getting involved in photography did you get involved in bereavement photography?
So let's see. I would say probably 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 after I like got my first nice camera. Um, and how it happened was I think I just saw it done somewhere on Facebook or something. And then I looked in, there's an organization called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. So I looked into them. And at that point, there was a pretty lengthy application process where you had to submit photos and then they would review them and approve you or not approve you. Well, I honestly didn't think I would get approved because I didn't think I had, one, the experience, two, the equipment, or I just didn't think I was good enough. So then when I got the acceptance, I was kind of like, oh crap, now what? Like now I've committed to this and I need to do it. And so it just kind of started. I think most of my life starts randomly. And that was another random start of something that has continued on to this day. So
So what drew you to that to begin with?
honestly, when I was little, like 10, 11, 12, 13, I was babysitting a lot in my town. And because I was the only girl my age, so I babysat everywhere. And there was a period of time where there was, I think, 3 families that had lost infants. And it wasn't talked about a lot, but everyone knew because I think they were all girls. And I think it was in a relatively short amount of time. And I was babysitting at one of the houses and they had a photo book of pictures of the baby.
Mm.
And back then it was Polaroids. They weren't edited. They were just, actually 2 of the families had Polaroids of their babies. And I found it like fascinating and sweet. And I loved these pictures of these babies. Never did I think that one day I would be taking them or that
Mm.
would lead me there. But I think that's honestly where it started, just
An
because
introduction.
yeah, yep. And I think that just, being able to get introduced to that at such a young age and have it like positively infect me, positively affect me, not
Yeah.
infect,
Yeah.
in like scare me away from it, I think just kind of led into it in my
Yeah.
adult life.
So you and I met through a friend of a friend after Harlynn passed away, and she wanted to provide someone for us to take pictures, which initially I was like, why would we do that?
Right.
That
Yeah.
and that state of mind that I was in, I just couldn't reconcile why would we need pictures, but I'm so glad.
Right.
First of all, that we were connected, and immediately upon meeting you at so you came to the visitation. We actually had to postpone the funeral a day because of a wicked snowstorm.
Yep.
So you came to the visitation, you came 2 days later to the funeral. And so I never met you until you came to the funeral home for the visitation. And I remember I walked back. Someone told me that you were there. And so I walked back and you were setting up your camera and everything. And I said, Megan told me to give you a hug. And then we just hugged right there, never met. And that was our introduction. And then I remember you came to the house multiple times. You sat with me when nobody else would. I could do a whole episode just talking about how blessed I was to have you in my life in that season. But I remember creeping on your Facebook, and you had this parody commercial of like Dove for Men when Dove was doing like the beauty campaign or
Yeah.
something where everyone was beautiful, and it
Yep.
was the sketch artists getting the men to describe themselves and then describe And it made me laugh so hard in a season where laughter did not come easily.
Right.
And so I said, I have got to be her friend. I have got to be her friend. And you came to our house to deliver the photos, I think. And I said, would it be weird if I added you on Facebook? And you kind of laughed and you were like, no, it wouldn't be weird, but I want to know and you're not going to hurt my feelings. Was it weird that I asked you that?
No, not at
Okay.
all. No, I would have added you anyways.
Okay,
So
good. Good.
yeah.
So then I would love to hear from your perspective though, how you had done bereavement photography for a while at that point. Harlyn's was the first funeral you did. Is that right?
Yes.
So then, how, from your perspective, how did it just come to be where we became friends and then you called me on that Mother's Day to say, we need to do something?
So that's a really tough question. I think though, since that was the first funeral I had been to, it was different than when I go to the hospital and take pictures. Because when I go to the hospital and I take pictures, you're in a bubble.
Mm,
Like everyone's in a bubble. The mom has hormones, she has medicine, she has almost euphoric things still going on because she just gave birth in any circumstance and she's exhausted. So that's a different situation. With the funeral, there was a moment during that where you guys were walking Harlynn out and the guttural cry from your husband stuck with me like a pain that no one should have to deal with. Like I can still remember it. I can see it. Like it's just the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life. And that I think was what changed it all for me. Like that was awful.
mm,
Just can't sugarcoat it. It was a sound like a primal pain that I'd never heard before.
mm. I know
And
exactly the moment that you're talking about.
yeah, it was life changing. I mean, it's just it was hard to hear, and hard to watch, and hard to feel. So
Yeah.
I think that was the change,
Yeah.
honestly. I
Yeah.
hadn't heard that sound ever.
Or see, so did you have many relationships beyond the hospital room with bereaved parents at that point?
Not really, because I had done my first couple ones in Minot, and
Mhm.
I'd moved to Fargo, so I traveled to Minot. But I would say probably kept in touch, maybe a little bit, but nothing to the effect that yours did or what Harlan's heart did after that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it just kind of changed everything. Just a
Yeah. And
different.
how have your kids responded or reacted to your involvement in the bereavement world?
They're very accepting. I think they know more of what I do for the bereavement community than they do of like my own business. Because
Mm,
if I ever say like I need to go to the hospital, it's like no questions asked. Mom needs to go. They understand. Um, I just think they can talk about it. Like I remember one time Olivia and I went to go visit Harlynn, and Olivia, I told her just to stay in the car, and she was I don't even know how old at this time, not very old. And I didn't tell her what we were really doing or anything. I just kind of went to stop to check the grave or I don't know, something. I just felt drawn to go there. And Olivia gets out of the car and she's over underneath a tree singing a lullaby. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm singing a lullaby to the babies. I had not told her that we were in the child area of the cemetery, anything. So I think she's a little bit like me, maybe in tune with that side of the world or
right.
something, but it was, it didn't scare her, it didn't frighten her. It was just something we did.
Yeah. It was 3 months later that we announced that we were launching Harlan's Heart. And you were very much the visionary behind that. You drove so much of what we set out to accomplish. What what is your so just so the listeners know, when my husband and I moved to South Dakota, it'll be 3 years ago at the end of this month, we disbanded Harlan's Heart, gave our funds to other local organizations that had the same mission. We're helping the same people. How does being involved in Harlynn's Heart set your perspective for interacting with the needs of the community today?
I think what Harlynn's Heart did was open a lot of doors about the discussion of what we discussed with Harlynn's Heart. I'm still extremely active, like within the hospitals, Sanford especially, going up there and dealing with the parents and the families. So it just, even though Harlynn's Heart dissolved and disbanded and you moved away, which I think was all in right timing and was what was supposed to be done, it's still continuing on through the hospitals. Like I go up there and our cuddle cots are still up there with Harlynn's name on them. And so even though the organization has ceased to exist, it still lives on in our work, which
Yeah.
I think is amazing.
Yeah. And you, I mean, it was very evident to me within moments of meeting you how empathy just comes so naturally to you. And you are one of, if not the most empathetic person I think I've ever met. It was weeks later, maybe, when I realized how you are also one of the most sarcastic and funny people that I've ever come across. One of my fondest memories was when I almost died that time that I rode with you to Sioux Falls for it was like our first ever fundraiser event.
Yep.
And I was barely pregnant. We had to stop or we had to go through the drive-through at Wendy's to get a Coke because I was so nauseous. And I think you were the one that convinced me, like, you need a fountain pop Coke. It's the only thing that's going to help you. And you were right that day. But I was so sick. I was so nauseous. driving down with you, I was like, this is it. This is how it ends.
You're not the only one that's thought those things with me. Yeah, I'm not a very good driver. It's fine. You live.
So your kids now, they're older, they're in sports. Is that all three of them
All three.
in
All
the
three.
same sport? Are they all in baseball?
No, Olivia does softball, Evan does football and baseball, and Jacob does basketball.
And what kind of sports mom are you?
The kind you can guess. I'm loud. I think I know everything about every sport. Even though I've never played baseball or softball, I tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just throw strikes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Catch
Yeah.
the ball.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Do you
I
take
listen to what other people are saying and I say it over and over louder. So I sound more intelligent than them. Yep. That's me.
Oh, and are your kids into your enthusiasm for their sports? Are they embarrassed by it?
Um, Evan says he just blocks me out. I'm probably the loudest at his games, like really loud. I actually did a reel one day with him reenacting what I sound like, and it was pretty embarrassing. Like I am loud and annoying, and I leave his games with a like half a voice because I'm so loud. He doesn't seem to mind. Like I don't think they really mind. Olivia does like to shoot darts at me with her eyeballs, like when she's doing something and I'm giving her unhelpful advice. Since I've never played the sport, she does
Yeah.
not love it.
Yeah.
Jacob just had practice, basketball practice, and I was doing it was like a line of dads and me on the sideline. And I'm like, Jacob, come here, grab his arm. You need to rebound. You need to box out when you rebound. I'm like, me and every dad saying the same thing. But he was like, okay, mom. Okay, mom. So he's only 11. I think he thinks I maybe know what I'm talking about. Basketball, I do. I played basketball, so I can confidently say that I've done the sports. The other ones, no, I shouldn't be allowed to talk.
Well, another thing that this conversation just reminded me of, I remember, okay, this was years ago when I was still like active on social media, and you were always posting pictures and videos of the most fun activities that you were doing with your kids. I'm not sure if your kids thought it was super fun, but I remember thinking like, oh, I wish I could think of things like that to do with my kids, but I couldn't ever think of stuff like that on my own. You did like an Iron Chef
Oh yes. We did
competition. Do you remember?
yeah, we used to do what was that show called? Chopped. So I would get
Chopped,
them, yes, I would get them
the
boxed
secret ingredient.
ingredients and then they have to make something for me, which was kind of hard because I also had to be the judge. So
Right.
what I gave them had to actually be something I wanted to eat. So it was usually like a banana and ice cream and a piece of bread or something. But yes, we did that a lot. I loved those challenges.
Yeah. Were your kids into that, or were they like, oh, mom's
Yeah.
going to make us do this thing again?
No, they love that. They actually
Yeah.
loved that one. It actually got annoying. They always wanted to do it, which was hard for me to always come up with ingredients that didn't taste like crap together. So no, they loved it. Yeah.
Where did you get those ideas? I guess, was it challenging to come up with things to like entertain your kids randomly?
I don't think so, because that's just how my brain works.
Yeah.
Like I just I've always been like that. Like growing up, like my mom said I was born to go to a party. Like I just love doing stupid things and dragging people along with me. And my kids just happen to be the ones I drag along the most.
And do you think they've outgrown that, or now that they're teenagers, preteens, is it just different?
Um, I think it's just they're more busy,
Yeah.
like less time. We're not all together all the time in the kitchen. Like I remember thinking at one point in my life, like, why do I have a 4 bedroom house? I could have a 1 bedroom house and we could all just live in the same room because they never leave me alone.
Yeah.
And now it's the space is there. They can ride their bikes. Olivia drives. So there's less creative time for me to um, torture them. They're more dependent on themselves. So yeah,
So, what are some of your favorite things or favorite ways to spend time with your kids today?
that's a good question. Jacob and I like to binge movies. So we're really into the Scream series right now. Olivia loves to shop with me. Evan, him and I used to go on a lot of dates. So it's always like a date, like we go out to eat and he'd pretend to
Right.
buy that. So
Right.
every now and again, we still do that. Like we'll still go out to eat. We don't call it a date anymore because he actually dates
Right.
humans, not his mother. Um, but I just think we really like going places. We've started traveling lately. Like we've gone to Florida a couple times. We went to visit my brother in Dallas, and we just really like doing that. So just more normal things.
More normal
Weird,
things.
a little weird mixed in.
Are there things that you see? So you're taking photos of a lot of families and everything. You get to interact with all of these families. There things that you see other families do that that either, I guess this could be a two-parter, that either you're like, that annoys me so much. I'm so glad we don't do that as a family, or things that were like, that's so cool. Maybe I should implement that.
I don't ever think like I should implement something. I don't think I have enough time in my life to implement anything more. But the ones that no one really annoys me, but the ones where I'm like, wow, how can you live like that are the super type A ones. I
Mm,
just can't get behind anyone that's type A. I don't know how to do it. I'm type Z squared. I am so bad at that stuff. So the ones that have it all together, I'm like, I couldn't live like that. I couldn't if I tried. I
yeah.
would like to be like type H or J, like right in there,
Middle of the road.
right in the middle of the road somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Do you
Yeah.
do you take is there a broad spectrum of families who come to you for their pictures, or is it kind of, do you attract kind of the same people?
I think I attract a lot of the same people because I my pictures are very fast. They are in and out 20 minutes. Like there's not a lot of chit chat. We chit chat between. And so I think I attract the people that just want to get in, have a great time and be out and be
Yeah.
done here. And I think I have a couple that are, no, I would say like the ones that are really, really rigid and want like the perfect photos, they maybe come to me once and then they might go somewhere else. Because mine are, I care less about it being perfect and I care more about it like being fun. Like if your
Right.
kid's 3 and they're screaming, we implement it. We go. We don't let them ruin the photo shoot. We just keep going.
Yeah.
So, and there's some that don't like that. Like there's some that really want just the perfect pretty hands photo. And I can tell you, I've never once in my life said pretty hands. So if that's your vocabulary, you don't come to me.
I think there are a lot of preconceived notions about what a photographer is and does and how they operate. One of my favorite things about you taking our family photos is I am that rigid person and I have these expectations of what it should go. And you just quip in there with a witty comment and down go my defenses, bowled over in laughter. And those are the best pictures.
Yes, I agree. I agree. So yes, that is a good point. I do have a lot of those type A because they are on time. They are ready for action. They have told their children what to do. And usually it's involving get there on time.
Don't get dirty.
Yeah, don't get dirty until Michelle tells you get dirty and you behave for 20 minutes and we're done. So I do think I have a lot of them. I just don't let them be that when they get there.
Yeah.
Like you're in my world at that point.
Yeah.
If I say a swear word, I apologize and we move on. And that's how it is. Oh, not lying.
Oh, no, I love it. And I think you just make it easy because you're so approachable and you're just so in the moment. It's not about where you have to be next, where you just came from. I remember, I think the last time you took our family photos and you had just come from something, you were late and you were like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in a bad mood. I'll shake it off. And then I think Haley went up and gave you a hug and you were like, I'm already better.
Right. Yep.
I'm already
Yep.
better. And then
Yep.
we took amazing pictures. I still think you should come to South Dakota, do like a photo tour.
I should. I need a change of scenery.
Yeah. We've got some great scenery here.
Yeah, I'll come.
You should come on a scout trip at least.
I should. I'll bring my camera. I'll shoot you.
So if people would like to find you or get in touch with you or creep on you like I did when we first met, what's the best way for them to find you?
Probably Facebook. I've tried to get into Instagram. It's hit or miss. Like I'll go 3 days with posting like I'm the queen of the IG, and then I drop it for like 3 months. I just can't do it. So Facebook is usually the best way. That's where I just post all my stuff.
And it's Michelle Warren Photography.
I think so, yeah.
Which again, happy 10 years.
Thank
Such
you.
an accomplishment.
I did not realize it till last night when I was shooting a senior and the mom asked how long I'd been doing it. And I was like, what is today's date? And she's like, August 14th. I'm like, oh, tomorrow is either 9, 10, or 11 years. And I didn't know. So I had to go back. And the funny thing is, she used to work at the same bank I did. So when I quit, she was actually working at that bank. She was in a different department. But yeah. So yeah, if it hadn't been for that, probably would have been no like grandiose celebration like there is today.
Right.
Which is coffee.
In your amazing mug, I have to say.
Thank you.
Well, Michelle, you are one of my favorite people. We're wrapping up on time here. I'm so glad that you agreed to hop on this podcast with me so that I could just kind of hold you out there and brag about you to the rest of my world anyway. But thanks for being an awesome mom to your kiddos. I think they're lucky to have you.
Thank you. I think you're pretty awesome too.
Well, thanks. We'll have to get back on a different time and compliment each other continuously.
Yeah, you're beautiful. You're so nice. You look the same as you did 10 years ago.
Oh, you stop.
I actually do smell good because I was getting my hair done or like doing my hair for this because I never do. And I'm spraying it with what I thought was hair oil. It was perfume. So I smell like a rose petal.
I wish the podcast had smell-o-vision.
I know, right?
But it doesn't. Maybe next time.
Next time.
Next time. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Motherhood Experience podcast. To join our exclusive TME community, head on over to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more. Be sure to follow The Motherhood Experience on Facebook and Instagram, and please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below, and we'll catch you next time.